All right, we're going to have people probably floating in and out since it's a nice Saturday morning and everything. My name is Larry Chu. I'm the mayor of Larkspur, and this is our third of three town hall meetings, and it is for the Larkspur Library and Community Center. So the first thing I'd like to start with as we open the meeting is to please have everybody stand up. I would like to acknowledge and express the city's condolences and sympathies to the families and victims of the terrorist attacks in Paris yesterday. Okay, thank you. Please stay standing, and I'd like to just recite the Pledge of Allegiance. We don't have a flag here, but I'll just start that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. First, I'd like to introduce to you our city council members. Starting to my right, we have Kevin Haroff. And just walked in front of me, Ann Morrison. Good morning. And Dan Hilmer is standing in the back. He'll be making a presentation later. And Vice Mayor Catherine Way, yes, she's in the back there in the red. Okay, we also have members of our staff, our department's head today, starting with our city manager. He's in the back of the room in the blue shirt. We have Neil Toft, our planning director, and Cynthia Huseman, our city clerk. We had Grace Houlihan, Public Works Director. Dick Whitley, our Park and Recreations Director, was here a moment ago. I do not see him. He's got traffic duty. And maybe Frances Gordon, I believe, is also directing people in here. She's our library director. Okay. Okay. I was looking around the room. Usually we have our architects here for the meeting, and our architects are from the firm of Letty, Madam, and Stacy. And today we have our one of the partners and the lead architect on the project is Marcia Madam, and she's in the back there next to Council Member Way. Right. As I mentioned, this is the first or third of three town hall meetings, and it's been quite a process. For several years now, we have been looking at a design for a new community center and library here in Larkspur. It's downtown on Doherty, across the street from the police station in Piper Park. We had gotten to the point where we've gotten a lot of community feedback through several workshops, and we had to kind of take a step back as people were expressing, you know, what should the look and feel for the design of the library be, you know, and how does that reflect in the community character and the small town character of Larkspur? So those are the types of questions we're going to be asking you today. We're here in what we consider a town hall setting. We're going to keep it very informal. As you can see, you're kind of facing each other. It's kind of a neighbor-to-neighbor type of interaction. And, you know, it will be, in many respects, a discussion. And, you know, you can express, you know, whatever comes to your mind. There are no right or wrong answers. So to lead that part of the discussion, before I introduce them, can I get a sense of how many people live north of the creek, Corte Madera Creek? Yeah, that's Corte Madera Creek. Yeah, the Greenbrae side. Okay, Greenbrae, Kentfield. Okay, so I would assume that everybody else is kind of on the Larkspur side.
No, that's also Greenbrae too. So.
Yeah, we view this community center library as not just serving the city of Larkspur and the residents of Greenbrae who are part of the city of Larkspur, but you know, this is going to be, you know, people who use our library, it's really people from the whole lower Ross Valley, from Corte Madera all the way up to Kentfield, until they kind of find that indifference point between going from where they live to San Anselmo versus coming down to Larkspur. So we're here to look at what you have to say and think, irrespective of whether you're a Larkspur Greenbrae resident or not, here in the city of Larkspur's jurisdiction. So to lead today's discussion, we have the firm called The Grove, and with us to my left is Gisela Wending, and behind me is Giselle Chow. I'm just going to read you a brief overview of what their backgrounds are. Gisela is a doctorate in human and organizational systems from Fielding Graduate University and was the former director of the master's program in organizational development at Sonoma State. Giselle has an MA in Educational Leadership and a BA in Art History, both from Mills College in Oakland. She's got extensive experience in educational leadership, including serving as the Dean of Equity and Instruction and Acting Dean of Students in a San Francisco high school. She is also a former graduate of Redwood and lives in Greenbrae, so she's local, understands, and has been a member of this community. Both Gisela and Giselle have been doing this for a lot of different organizations of different sizes, whether they're corporate or for municipalities such as ourselves, in leading these types of discussions. So I'd like to now turn that over to them and hope that we get a lot of good feedback today.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Yeah? Am I good? This is videotaped, so, oh good, we are good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Larry, for the introduction. And, he's right. We've done this work a lot, and I have a particular passion of bringing people together from multiple or many points of views and have meaningful conversations that develop really good insights. So I'm glad to be here. And so I will be the one who is moving the meeting forward, right, so that we move from activity to activity and question. So I'll be facilitating the interaction. And Giselle?
Good morning, everyone. So I will be serving as your graphic recorder today. So graphic recording, if you're not familiar, is the large-scale capture of your work, what you are saying in words and pictures on these large boards. So you will notice me working back and forth, listening, synthesizing what you're saying, and then writing it up here for all of you. And these will also be available on the website after this meeting, alongside with all the other graphics that were created at the other town hall meetings. So let me know if, at an appropriate time, if I get something wrong or I don't capture quite what you'd like me to capture, please let me know. This is for you, and it's a communications tool for this process. Thanks.
Thank you. So let me just briefly reiterate the outcomes that we are trying to achieve for this meeting and what we've done with the other meetings. And is to continue the town hall meeting process and build on the foundations of the generative dialogue that we've started to create when we had this first town hall meeting. And so we've been continuing on that, develop a greater, more nuanced understanding regarding what we mean when we talk about our neighborhoods in the city of Larkspur, and of course that includes Greenbrae and Kentfield and a number of other incorporated areas. So it's really important for this meeting, and that's why we have this meeting also over here, is to really get a holistic perspective from as many people as possible. And an important outcome, as Larry mentioned, is that community members learn and listen neighbor to neighbor. This is not a place where like you have the right point of view and the wrong point of view. There's just a lot of multiple point of views. And part of the, a dialogue like this, a community gathering, is to surface that and to hear one another, to see, oh, where you're coming from. That's interesting. Like last time we had a lot of middle school students show up. They have a very particular point of view, right? And it was really, really generative and helpful to hear what their thoughts on the community center and library. And we take full advantage of the presence and perspective of who is in the room today. And here is this is what we have in mind for the time that we have together. Good to see you. it's nice. I'm getting to know you. There's several of you that have come before. So Dan Hilmer will give a sort of brief conceptual overview on community design, so we get into the frame of mind of how to think about this community design. So he'll give a presentation on that briefly. Then we'll take some time to set up for the community dialogue. And then about 45 minutes, and we have to move through this in a somewhat rapid pace. We have a bunch of questions, and I'm going to help to move you through it, right, so that we can get as much input as possible. And then at 11:30, we'll close that section of the morning. But we will be here until noon. And at 11:30, if you feel like you've had enough, it's time for you to go, you have something else to do, please feel free to do so. But if you want to stick around and continue the conversations with your neighbors and the council members and whoever else is here, you can do that. We also have this board back there with this poster that was started at the last meeting for any additional comments that somehow haven't been mentioned but you feel need to be heard. And please feel free to take or even in a meeting, whenever you want to do it, go grab a pen and write your comment in there. So, and this one has all of the questions on it that we want to get input from you on. And then the official ending is at noon. Sounds like a plan? All right, great. So let's do it quickly. So Dan, would you take it from here?
Good morning. I'm going to take 5 minutes or so to just show you a series of images and a few statements in some slides that attempt to capture, in a very general way, Larkspur's sense of place, which has a great deal to do with its connection to its natural setting. So there'll be a couple of themes that I'll try to express here in these slides. And it'll be very quick, and it's intended to just kind of trigger your imagination about where we live and the neighborhoods and commercial areas that make up our community.
Dan, can you move that screen a little bit, move it to your left and face it toward the people? Move it out a little bit.
Our mayor will do that. Thank you for the suggestion. All right, Larkspur's community identity is very much about how over time we've built structures and neighborhoods and commercial areas kind of in the landscape. And as you see these slides, a lot of them aerial views, well, we have a history of the area. This is focusing on the site. Originally, it was Native American villages and individual homes, and I'm going to leave this loop up. It'll be going over the entire 90 minutes of the meeting, so you can pick up on the information that's in there. But basically, it talks about the history of the area around the site, and it was a nursery for 75 years, starting in 1920. And Larkspur's a wide diversity of neighborhoods and commercial areas, from north to south, east to west, a lot of them hillside neighborhoods, canyon areas, neighborhoods along the creeks. But it's always these natural features that tend to tie the community together. And although the boundaries are hard to image, these central areas are very prominent. And preservation and connection to the natural setting has been really a tradition here in Larkspur. And as the city developed, we've tried to maintain continuity with that. By that I mean, everywhere you go, you have views of the natural landscape and a strong, very strong sense of landscape character in all of the neighborhoods. This is Greenbrae, north of Sir Francis Drake. Greenbrae, the hills along Corte Madera Creek, including the apartment complex neighborhoods, the Larkspur Marina. But it's always a relationship to water, woodland areas, views of Mount Tamalpais. Those are kind of the things that we all grow to appreciate from where we live, in spite of the fact that many of the neighborhoods are very different. And it's these strong landscape character, gateways into the downtown, et cetera, and the edges that are often trees that dominate you're feeling about the community, and that's a very strong reason as to why we enjoy this. So that sense of place and a relationship to the landscape is a very strong theme that has allowed Larkspur to maintain an identity. This is a view of the downtown, and you see just how closely we are in relationship to the canopy of trees. And we have wetland areas. These are views of the area around the central Larkspur area where the property is located. And Larkspur's architectural character has been influenced by the California tradition of architecture and landscape design. A very important component of that is how buildings relate to the landscape, and you often see porches, colonnades, courtyards, gardens surrounding buildings that have this interface with the area. Even going back to historic buildings, you see almost every building has this sense of relationship to the landscape. And it's these spaces around the buildings that people tend to use and are the most popular parts, even in our downtown. We have small lots, but it's the places like Emporio Rulli, which has a portico where people sit kind of outside, but they're still, kind of indoor-outdoor. City Hall with its entry of a colonnade or an arcade. St. Pat's Church with a patio landscape courtyard in the front. There are these transitional areas that kind of define the character. The left bank with its colonnade with seating and stuff outdoors. It's these kind of indoor-outdoor areas that, even though there's a wide variety of architectural styles, it's these places that we identify the strongest with. There are exceptions to that, of course, but still you pick up on some of the features here, recessed entryways. So there's this spatial character that tends to define the buildings. This is a view of the nursery in the central Larkspur area about 10 or 11 years ago. And that's the library community center site you're looking at. And there'll be an updated aerial here showing what it looks like today, that same location. So there's an opportunity here for us to tie the new design of the building both with the natural setting and the history of this site. So these are views of the kind of entry sequences toward the property from the new neighborhood, from Redwood High School looking down Doherty Drive to the west. And a very important view of how this community center site relates to Doherty Drive as an entry to the downtown area. So questions are, what are the ways that we can strengthen the unifying landscape character of Central Larkspur in the design of this new facility? And what are ways we can echo the history of the area in the design of this new facility? So that's my 5 minutes, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions. And I say this will loop throughout the meeting.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Are there any questions or comments for Dan at this point? Yes, ma'am.
I must respectfully disagree with Dan. I appreciate the effort.
Ma'am, would you mind using the microphone? Thank you.
All right.
Really close.
Thank you. All right. I respectfully disagree with Council Dan Hilmer. I respect and understand what he is thinking about for the library design, but it is an error, I think, to say that the natural areas tie the community together, because one natural area, Cordillera Creek, divides the community, and one unnatural area, which is the 101 freeway, that divides the community. So you have three separate sections. You have old historic Larkspur, you have the Greenberry Hills, and you have Larkspur Landing. And for that reason, I think it's very important to try to focus on the pathways and the roadways that will help bring people from those areas into central Larkspur. And trees do not dominate the community in Greenberry or Larkspur Landing. And so we like the trees in central Larkspur, but I think there's an over-focus on central Larkspur in overall planning. And I'm a big fan of the Piper Park Bridge, which we can discuss later. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, ma'am. It's been heard, yes?
I appreciate your comments. I would just take it in the
Yeah.
context of the discussion. And I think the aerial photographs speak for themselves,
Yeah.
and we'll let everyone interpret it in their own way.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to set up the time for us that we have in community dialogue. And many of you who were here before, I think you probably remember some of the things that we've done before, which is agreed on a few ground rules that are really helpful to make community dialogue easy. We don't need to create them anew. I just would like to share with you what we've agreed on in the past and have worked really well for us. And so what we want to do in this time that we have together is to be open to different perspectives. I mean, that's just part of living in a community. We have, yes, ma'am?
I'm confused. I thought there was already an architectural design. Has that been scrapped, or is there a design already for the building?
There is, and what we're doing in these town hall meetings is get more input from everyone to see in what ways it needs to shift or change.
Can
Yeah.
we see it then?
It has, I believe, that has been shared with the community, and I think it is available.
And actually, there are a lot of people who haven't seen it, and there's not even a picture of it here, is there? So
Okay.
maybe the architect could, maybe we could move the representative of the architect up front, because I think there are going to be some questions about
Okay,
the
okay, let's,
design itself.
could I, what really helps at a time of this, in a meeting like this, is if it's only one person at a time speaks. And so I would like to have the perspective of the council, city council, or city staff respond to what has been shared with the community about the designs. Thank you, Dan.
So I don't think I would totally agree with the way that question was answered. The process that we went through with the architects reached what's called the 50% mark in our planning, which meant we had some rough preliminary drafts. Those preliminary drafts were shared with the community, and the community said, we don't think these drafts reflect our feeling about what our community character is. The council said, well, we're hearing enough people who have concerns about that we should have some meetings of the community to talk about what community character is, so that we can make sure that we give direction to the architects to move the process forward, to have a design that people do feel is reflective of community character. So the purpose of these town hall meetings is not to get into the details of the building design, it's to talk about what you feel community character means with respect to our community and our environment, so that the architects can take that commentary and integrate it into the building design. So I don't know that it would be productive to get into a building design that the council's already kind of parked on the side and said, we heard enough people say this didn't quite hit the mark, we want to hear from the community. So the goal of this meeting is to talk a little bit more about what design features you like in buildings you do see around town, and to also talk about what elements of the community and the natural environment interest you to be reflected in the design.
Thank you, Dan. Does that answer enough of your question?
Well, I guess I'm not clear there, so there's, we're aware
Would you
of-
please speak in the microphone?
Sorry. I'm only aware of one picture online of it, and I'm a newcomer to the community, as are some of the other members of the terraces and the Master Association, which is the most, which is the closest community to this. And I've only seen one online. Is there? Was there more? Sorry.
Just hang on a second.
The designs that were presented to the council are up online. They've kind of been pushed to the back to promote this process at this time on our website, again, because the feeling was we needed to park that process, have this conversation, and then we'll resume that building design process and that property design process going forward. The council has said that after this process is completed, one of the things they want to talk about next as a group is what are the next steps to move forward.
Okay. Just let me clarify. Can you hear me? So this meeting is about hearing from you about the character of your community, and we have a number of questions about that. It's not about commenting specifically on an existing or a draft of a design. So that is not what we are prepared to do here. Does that clarify enough in terms of what the purpose is for this meeting? Yes, ma'am. And then I would like to go ahead and actually get us into the conversation that we intended to have.
Okay, I have not.
You just need to hold it close enough to your mouth.
Okay, I have not seen a copy of the preliminary plan.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a show of hands for how many people have seen it. The reason that I think that it's important for us here to have seen that is because when the final plan is finalized and the building is built, I would like to know how our discussions here have affected the original plan, and I can't do that if I haven't seen the original plan.
Well, so I think this is good information. But for me, I'm thinking that you have heard as a city council, and that there is a request to have more of that shared. And I'm also hearing a request, how does these town hall meetings translate into the next version of the design? That's what I'm hearing in this. And then I have an urgent comment here and another comment there, and then I would like to move ahead with the question.
I just want to back up what you guys have been saying is they had 2 meetings already. They had 2 meetings at the police station months ago where they talked about the design.
Yeah.
So that was voiced to the community. There was input. So I just wanted to reinforce what you were saying. That
Okay.
has been done.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I was at some of those meetings. In fact, there was more than one design. There were a couple of different designs. And it would have certainly provided us with more context had we seen what had gone before. I feel I had assumed that would be part of what we were talking about, even though, as you say, we're moving on toward yet a third or maybe a fourth design element. However, to erase what's been done, I think does a disservice to the public.
That is not my understanding, is to simply erase what has been done, but it's to build on it and to clarify and how to best reflect the diversity of perspective that you have across, the area. Yeah, right. So have we heard enough from you in terms of can we move forward? I'm getting some head nods. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. So so what we want to do is to be really open to each other's perspectives. Use brevity. Say what is core. You step forward and step back. Make sure that a lot of voices can be heard. Demonstrate respectful listening. And how would you say? What does it look like to listen respectfully? Don't interrupt. What else? Respectful listening.
One at a time?
Huh? One at a time. Yes, right here.
No eye rolling.
No eye rolling. Okay. Also, it'd be good to turn your cell phones off, right? So, but I think we got that down, right? There's one more thing. This is not about either or, right or wrong. One attitude you can have is yes and. Yes, I hear that, and here's something else. Thank you so much. All right. So to keep on going, to get you in the frame of mind of this dialogue, I would like to take just a couple of minutes to do a quick visualization that actually may help generate some more information that you can share with us. Often when we come to these meetings, we have preconceived ideas and a lot of thoughts are floating around, and this should help us get focused in our thinking here. So this will be just a couple of minutes of quiet time where you can reflect. And what really works in those situations is to take a deep breath. You're welcome to take a deep breath. You don't have to. You can close your eyes if that helps you in visualizing. For some people that works. Or you can keep your eyes open, whatever works for you, and I'll just share a few words with you. So now imagine it's a beautiful day. Probably not much unlike today. It's sunny and you're feeling at ease. It's a beautiful day. It's sunny and you're feeling at ease. You're walking down a street in your community. You're walking down a street in your community. Where are you? You have no pressing commitments, and you're taking the time to notice and observe everything around you. You're taking the time to notice and observe everything around you. Again, where are you? Imagine yourself at a specific place. What does it look like? Who else is there? Who else do you see is in your picture? Or who could be there at a different time of the day? Are they saying anything? Take the time right now to imagine the whole scene. Take the time right now to imagine the whole scene. Where are you? What does it look like? Who else might be there? Are they saying anything? Do you all got a place? You have a place in mind? An image? Head nodding works really well. Or, oh, a few of you got it? That's great. So what I would just like you to do, take a minute and turn to your neighbor, find another person, and just briefly share what you visualized, what you saw. Just take a minute to do so, and then I'll let you know when we'll move on. Okay. Thank you so much. All right, can I have your attention? It's one of the ground rules. One of the things that works really well in large groups is when I raise my hand, that means I would like your attention. So thank you so much. So let me move into the first question of this, and this is a point in time where we can use the people who have the microphones. So we'll have somebody over here with the microphone and somebody over there, and we'll make sure that everyone gets to speak in the microphone so that we make sure that your comments are recorded. How was that, to chat a little bit about the image that you saw? Anything new got revealed? Were any surprises? All right. So the first question, we have 6 questions that I want us to move through rapidly here in this 45 minutes. So the first question, just briefly, how do you want to feel when you walk down the street in your community? You know, what comes up for you? How do you want to feel in your community when you walk down the street?
Now, does that mean neighborhood, or community mean neighborhood?
Yeah. So is anywhere where you don't want this to be recorded?
No, I wanted you to define community. Is it downtown or is it your own neighborhood?
It's your own neighborhood.
Thank you.
Or wherever you visualize where you have a sense of community.
Okay.
All right? Thank you for the clarification.
That you know other people, that you have friends that you can say hello to and who know you.
Great. So there are friends and there are people you know, and that creates a sense of community, and this is how you want to feel. Okay. What else?
Certainly want to feel safe.
Okay, let's have this.
Safe. Safe.
All right. Okay.
Safe.
Okay. He really wants to feel safe. Okay. You are not the only one.
I know.
Yes.
I want to feel stimulated, and I think it's building on the first comment. Building on the first comment, I want to feel intellectually stimulated. I want to be interested in design features and what I'm looking at, and most importantly, being able to engage, being stimulated to engage with other people in
Thank you.
conversation.
Great. You want to be stimulated and engaged with other people.
I
is
want to
what you're
feel
saying.
a
Yeah.
sense of connection with nature,
Uh-huh.
with, whatever's green and living and beautiful around me.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Right here.
I want to feel. I want to feel a connection with my larger community.
Uh-huh.
So let me explain what that means.
Okay.
I live in Greenbrae
Uh-huh.
on La Cuesta Drive.
Yeah.
So when I'm thinking of walking down the street, I'm
Mhm.
thinking of walking down La Cuesta,
Uh-huh.
which is a lovely street,
Uh-huh.
although it's getting built up a little too much. But it's a lovely street.
Mhm.
And when I walk down to the end of it, I hit Sir Francis Drake and the traffic congestion on Sir Francis Drake, which makes it virtually impossible for those of us who live in that community to get access to the kinds of resources that we're talking about in downtown Larkspur.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking when I'm walking down the street.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So so let me just see if I heard you. You're noticing the sense of disconnection that is there because of the different locations, and it would be nicer to have a different feeling about that.
Yes. And one way to help address that is to assure that we have access.
Uh-huh.
And access means dealing with traffic congestion on Sir Francis Drake Boulevard.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And when I'm walking down the street, I like to feel like I'm at home. I like it to be familiar and comfortable because familiarity makes me feel comfortable. At the same time, respecting what the gentleman over there said, I like to look at the different styles. I'm over by the Lark Creek Inn, by the way, heading into town, and I'm looking at a Victorian, and then I'm looking at whatever City Hall is, sort of Spanish, and St. Pat's, whatever. In other words, there's a lot of variety, and and I find that stimulating,
Okay.
the variety. And of course, don't forget the redwoods. That's why I started where I started.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, sir.
I don't want to feel distracted by traffic and its noise and hazards.
You don't want to feel distracted. And why is that, in terms of how you...
I want my own peace of mind.
All right, you want to have peace and quiet. Thank you. Any other feelings about how you want to feel back there?
A sense of anticipation. Walking down the street and anticipating the next person that walks up is my neighbor. Hey, how you doing? And that neighbor's out there walking too.
So what might happen now on this street where I am known and I might run into somebody and I know I'm walking outside and something is going to happen. I'm not just an unknown person with whom nothing happens, something like that, yeah? If it's not correct what I'm saying, tell me. Okay, good, great. Great, so this is kind of a warm-up question, right? So the next one here that we have, thank you, Giselle, is, well, it might be a little bit of a tricky question here, but it's an important one because we've asked that before and we are really interested in hearing from you all at this location about this question. What does small town character mean to you? You know, there's a sense of like Larkspur has, not everywhere, but in some places, a small town character. And but we'd like to hear from you what you think about that and how that, what thoughts you have on that. Yes, ma'am. And we have a...
Well, when I think of a small town character, I think of a place where people know each other. And you walk down the street and you say, hi, how's your daughter doing? You know, that kind of thing, like where they know what's going on in each other's lives.
Yeah.
That's what I think of as a small town character. And I have to say about where we live, I mean, yes, Larkspur is a small town. However, we do live in a bedroom community. A lot of people don't work here. They come home at night. They live here, but they work in the city. They work outside. I mean, it's a metropolitan area, and one town goes into the next, and it's hard to know where one stop. And I think of small town as a town that is unto itself, and that's different than where we live. I mean, we really live in a metropolitan area, and we want to create a small town character in a bedroom community.
Uh-huh.
So
there's
that's
some-
the challenge
yeah.
that we have.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yes. Anybody else? Yes, sir. And then we have a couple people over here.
Hi, I'm Sloan Wilson. I live on the boardwalk in Larkspur. And when I think about that question, I think of what it isn't. So I think iconic. So I don't think whatever this is going to grow into, I don't think iconic. I love City Hall and the building there. I think it's great. I don't think that is iconic. I don't think about the great qualities of the small town community as iconic. So whatever building structure would go up, iconic doesn't sort of come to mind. So
Can you help me make a connection between
Please.
the question of, what comes to mind when you think of small town character, and you're talking iconic. But I'm trying to understand more. The question is, what does small town character mean to you? And you say it's not iconic.
well, I guess in terms of the building is what I was kind of making that leap to.
Yeah.
So kind of what the opposite of iconic would be, right? Would be,
I see.
iconic, I think San Francisco, I think South of Market, iconic, office buildings, iconic museums. I don't think, when I think of small town community, as iconic.
So there's, when you think about Larkspur, the city of Larkspur, is there anything in the greater area of Larkspur that you would call iconic, or is this just not so? I just trying to
Like the
understand.
ferry building, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, it's huge. It's huge ferries going. Maybe that's sort of.
The Civic Center. So
Civic Center,
I just
yeah, that's a better
wanted to hear
example.
from you what iconic meant. I can imagine that maybe there are some other sites in Larkspur that might be iconic to some people, right?
Very true.
Exactly.
Very
Thank you
true.
so much.
Very
Did
true.
I get
Sure.
your point?
I hope so. I might have made it more confusing.
good.
There, so.
All right,
Sorry if I
thank
did.
you. Okay, no. We have a comment here, and then you, sir, too.
Yeah, small town means to me inclusiveness.
Aha.
And that means I can see in this room everybody is highly educated. We're all university graduates. So that means whenever I want to read Spanish books, I have to go to Novato Library. Nowhere else, I think I can find a tremendous variety of books. And Novato Library is the only one that has a Spanish club. So I would love to see different clubs that people can enhance their languages and continue practicing as they get older, which is a lot better for the brain. And also, where I want to support the gentleman who said safety, I want to know who my neighbors are. For example, reclusive people who don't know who they are, I'm scared. So it's very important that I know who they are and who are in my surroundings, in my boundaries. That's very important for me.
Okay. So familiarity creates safety. Inclusiveness means being inclusive of diversity and languages and having access to resources that support this diversity and creates connection, something like that. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, right? Oh, over here and then here. Oh, no, actually, he was here. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit. Please go ahead, sir.
No, I've got the microphone.
Yes, use it.
I think of a small town as one that actually has a defined center of gravity that exerts some kind of gravitational pull towards it. It might be more than one center of gravity, but those centers of gravity actually do exist, as opposed to something which is sort of pushed out toward its outer boundaries. And that's what I see in Larkspur.
Thank you. Yes. Over here, and then this lady, and then you. Okay.
I grew up in an actual small town. There was actually no question. It was a small town. I got on my bicycle and I rode anywhere, at any time I wanted to.
All right. So there's something about proximity and getting places, and it has. Okay.
I also grew up in a small town, and for me, it's walkability and being able to. It's almost freedom of movement, whether it's by bicycle, but especially by foot. And I've noticed in recent years that I dread Magnolia now because it's just so congested and it's used as a bypass from about 3 o'clock on, it is a solid line of traffic all the way down to Corte Madera Old Town. And it's very hard to safely even cross the street because I live uphill of the Blue Rock. And just to get across the street to get to some place like Ruley can be taking your life in your hands. And I'm very concerned that the impact of the increased traffic on Magnolia and Doherty is really affecting the ability to enjoy the town without noise, traffic, car exhaust, and I think it's a real issue for us.
Thank you so much. Right.
The two previous people just took the words out of my mouth. I was also going to say walkability and bicycles, meaning you can get to where you want to go without relying on a vehicle. That could include public transit, but certainly an area where you can go to those places and enjoy the process of getting there. And one other thing, small town equals no chains or big box stores.
I see. Okay, good, good. No chains and no big box store. Okay. So we'll have a couple more comments on this, and then we can move to the next question and to just sort of expand the input.
I was just going to say, I'm working right now with Corte Madera to make a age-friendly Twin City village for seniors to stay as independently as possible. And what kept coming up is they want somewhere to go and meet, and meeting rooms, so they can commune and discuss, like this young lady mentioned, somewhere to go to gather, to have some type of format for a discussion. So that's important.
Okay. So a very important part of small town character is the ability to connect and to come together in places that are not in the room that is safe and is easily accessible. And so we're talking about what makes, what is small town character to you, right? What would that look like? So we have a couple more comments here, and then it'll be you, and then you, sir, and then I'll. Yes.
You mentioned Ruley's, and I wanted to say that my husband and I just love going there and sitting outside and meeting all the local dogs. And I've met Diego a couple times now, and I know that it's a dog. And I know there's another coffee shop going in, which is a good thing. But at the last meeting, it was mentioned that the new community center does not have a kitchen. And I think a couple of us said we would love to have like a coffee shop kind of thing in the library, where you go to the library, you look up a book, you come and get a cup of coffee, and then you can talk to or overhear other people sitting around you. I remember when we were at Ruley's, I overheard the new owner of Amalfi's talking about his vision for the restaurant. Is Amalfi's? I think that's the name of it. And it was just really fun to hear that. You know, it made me feel, here's a guy who's bought a new restaurant in our block, walking distance, talking about his new restaurant.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Hi, I would also like to say I agree with most of what people are saying, but also let's concentrate on the whole family and a place for lots of activities for children where they can ride their bikes and after school and gather. I just looked at the program requirement over there, and it's only about 5,000 square feet, which is less than 25% of the building that's allotted to family activities, teens or children. And one of the problems, one of the reasons I think we have so much traffic is from 3 to 6, that we have to drive our kids to San Rafael and all over the place because they can't bike and they can't walk, and it's not that safe. And so I would just really hope that this building, I know this maybe wasn't the topic, I couldn't come to the other meetings, but it would be great if it had a gym and a rec room and all those things for children and families. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Are these your children? Yes. You know, anytime you feel like you want to say something, you're very welcome to do so. All right, we have a comment here, and then we'll move.
Yeah, I'd like to reinforce Daniel's comment about gravity and the pull of places in a small town community. And in context of this meeting, I think of the town that I grew up in, that one of those places that had that kind of pull was an old Carnegie Public Library that was sited perfectly and that was scaled perfectly and had trees and this indoor-outdoor space, even though it was in the Midwest, and was this communal spot where there was intellectual kinds of interactions and where a community really did sort of gravitate to and came together.
Okay, thank you. That's a nice summary. Thank you so much, in a way. Let me introduce a couple more questions here that we want to add to the thinking that we are doing here. Is when you think of the character of the communities that you live in that belong to the larger area of the city of Larkspur, what are the qualities of the natural environment in your community? What are the qualities of the natural environment in your community? And then also, what are the qualities of the built environment? So this is an opportunity for you to reflect on in the areas in which you live, work, hang out, however you want to define that. What are the qualities of the natural and the built environment? Let's just hear like what comes up for you. All right.
Open space.
Okay, we still need to use the microphones. Go right here. Thank you. And then the man right here.
Well, one of the reasons that I've lived here for as long as I have is the access to open space. And I mean, I can walk, or if I can drive up the hill, and in 5 minutes I'm in a beautiful open space with lots of trails, and I take my dog and I bike, and I mean, I feel very fortunate.
Do you have a particular place that comes to mind when you?
Well, at the top of Kenfield is one of. I mean, there's so many of them. Madrone Madrone, the end of Madrone, where Baltimore Canyon, King Mountain, the open space around the Water District. I mean, these are just places close to home, but I've been to many others. But this is just right within, a 5-minute drive.
Okay.
And I mean, I feel very blessed that we have that in our community. And
all right.
I don't want to, publicize it too much because it's not a lot
kind
of people.
Of precious,
not
right?
a lot of people access it, and I mean, that's really. We are so blessed to have
So
that.
there's something about the natural environment which you will
And
really
it's
enjoy.
beautiful, and I never get tired of it.
It's not all that well known, and it's kind of precious, and you want to keep it your own. Something. That's the sense of what's the qualities of the natural environment and your relationship to it. Let's hear from you, ma'am, and then.
I just want to say what a great ideas that I've been hearing. I love the idea of the coffee shop. I have teenage kids, and I think a kitchen is. I mean. I think that would be a no-brainer for putting in the community center. But the main reason I came is because of the pictures I've seen drawn of the building. Is that the architecture doesn't fit with the old downtown. It's a more modern building, and I think that it would be much better. I mean, you could get all of those same qualities and environmental qualities that they've been, saying with the light and the taking advantage of. It can be done, and you can still make it look like it ties into downtown. I know I was just back at my old university, and they've regretted that they put in some more modern buildings with the Gothic buildings. Because that's why the kids came to the school, is because of the cool Gothic buildings. And I think if we had that with the downtown, that downtown
Let me ask
look.
you a question when you think downtown, because even within downtown there are lots of different styles, right?
That is true. That is true.
So can you name a couple
Sure.
of the buildings that stand out to you so that we can just see what's in your mind?
The city hall itself is kind of an old Spanish building. I think that would work. I think that it, like the brick of without the modern finishes, I think that you could get a lot of that look with lower maintenance if you were to use something like precast concrete to get those building details. I like a building that it looks great from a distance, but it also looks great when you get close up and you can see the little artistic details. But I'm thinking of our city hall because I would like to see it.
So that's iconic to her. That's kind of iconic to.
I mean, it's not a wonderful, beautiful building or anything, but the new building does not fit in with the downtown. And I was also worried about the materials that were being used for how their durability will look over time and be dated, because I've seen like certain materials that that wear out faster. And I was concerned about some of those materials that I saw that they were using on the building, because I thought that they look really beautiful and snazzy, you know, for 10 years, and then they start to look faded. Like the Corte Madera Community Center, it's not something that you feel like you need to preserve. I would love to see a building that, you know, you want to preserve.
Okay, thank you. So there is, in terms of the quality, you're speaking specifically of the quality of the materials
and the design.
And the design, yeah.
I would like to see it tie into downtown, and it doesn't right now.
Thank you.
It ties in with the across the street school.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your perspective. There's somebody raising the hand, but I want to make sure. Yes, she was first, and then you will be second, and we'll make sure you are in context here, yeah? Did you just walk in, sir, or have been? Okay, great. Oh, I was just wondering. Okay, thank you.
I live on South Alicio in a condominium that is multi-unit housing. South Alicio is a complex of multi-unit housing. I have never heard anybody there say, I hate living in an apartment or my condominium. Everyone seems very happy. They're the natural issues of homeownership or rental.
Yeah.
But they like where they live. And I often go to Larkspur Landing, and that's multi-unit housing. It is commercial, Marin Country Mart office space. It is rapidly becoming a transit hub. And then I often ride through the tunnel into San Rafael, which is turning into a major urban center. So I feel somewhat disconnected from all this talk about Central Historic Larkspur, even though I enjoy going there, but that's not my life. And so my focus is on getting people there across from the end of South Alicio to Piper Park, a little pedestrian bridge, and improvements for people who live in Larkspur Landing. They are happening. North Redwood Highway will be magically improved to the pedestrian overcrossing. And then once the pedestrians and cyclists can cross 101, there will be an improvement along Doherty Drive, which Mary Grace finagled miraculously, and there remain a couple of intersections that need to be improved at Doherty and Lucky. But we can get there. I want those routes remembered and factored in to the library planning. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you, ma'am. Sir.
I just wanted to follow up on this gentleman's comment, since
Yes.
we seem to cycle back around that. So, in consultation with him, as far as iconic being, the building makes a statement of me. I'm the important architecture piece. You're looking at me as a piece stating about an architect versus I'm part of the
Would you
fabric.
please talk in the mic?
Versus I'm part of the fabric of the larger community.
Yes.
So it was just the term iconic. And what the point was from here was at least that the building saying, this is what I as an architect, this is the fancy, gorgeous thing I built for you, versus this piece of structure is part of a community that isn't asking for attention, but builds on the quality of the community.
So are you saying something like this, that whatever the new building is in terms of its character, it's not about it being iconic, but about it being woven into
Character.
the character? Oh, okay, great. Okay, thank you. Right. So again, well, let's just remember what we're talking about here is what are the qualities of the natural and also the built environment. And I want to make sure that we're getting everyone here. Was this just a second? If you could have the microphone right after over here, this gentleman. Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When I think of the built, I mean, here we're all here because we see this plot of land that we've all seen, and what I'm thinking in my mind is, what is going to get me to walk into that building? Okay, that's like the bottom line of this all. What is going to attract people? And I think a lot of we haven't spoken about yet is what's going to be in that building. What do people want in the community? People, everybody has their own ideas. I mean, I have my idea. Everybody here has their own ideas of what they want, and it's going to be different for everybody. If you're a young mother and you feel isolated, you're going to want to meet other young mothers. If you're an older person and you want to play bridge, or you want to, whatever, where you want to have discussions about what's going on in current events, and and there's some forum for that, then you're going to want to go there. So my thought is, what is going to bring people to walk through those doors? Of course, you want a nice building. You want it to be a pleasant building to walk into. But really, I think a lot of it is what's going to be offered at that community center, what's the environment going to be like, what kinds of facilities are going to be there that are going to make people want to walk into the building and use it on a regular basis.
So, thank you so much. So the point you're making, it's really helpful to have a building look in a way that feels really good to the community, but it's actually also what is happening in the building itself will make a huge difference. And as far as I understand, there has been done quite a bit of work around the utility of the building and what it serves and so forth. But actually, in just a little while, I want to open up that question, particularly for folks who from the wider area around that. So if you can just hang with it for a second, that'll be really great. So we have this lady, and then we have you, sir.
He's first.
Oh, yeah, he's first.
I'd like to see a building that reflects the century we live in. I think copying some style from downtown Larkspur would be a huge mistake. Trying to recapture 100 years ago is not something I want to see. I recommend taking a look at David Cabanaro's new academic center at the College of Marin, corner of College and Sir Francis Drake. It's a beautiful modern building, fits the purpose perfectly. It's a classroom building. It's the right scale for the location. And it's a beautiful modern building that fits into the community of Kentfield, but doesn't say, I'm an old Spanish-style building like Olney Hall used to be.
Yeah, right.
So I think it would be a big mistake to be retro.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Larry Longto. I'd just like to speak to the question of the built environment in the community, and I'm thinking of the downtown area. One of the characteristics I think that's very important is the human scale of the architectural environment. And I don't care if it's modern or it's very old, either of them can have human scale. That is true. I think if you look at the downtown, it has great architectural variety. It has great visually interesting buildings, and they're of human scale. That isn't true everywhere in Larkspur. And I think it's important. If you look at this building right across from this community, it's a great office building, but it's not what I would consider to have great human scale that would fit on a site like the one we're talking about. Similarly, the Redwoods is an interesting building that accommodates a lot of people. I think most people would say that that doesn't have human scale because of its size in relationship to the buildings around it. So anyway, we could talk about human scale of what is built architecturally, I think is very important.
Can I, just a question of clarification about human scale. Are you talking about at this moment about the size of a building versus anything else?
Yeah, I'm not an architect. It's a little hard to quantify, but it's like the mass and bulk of a building. How massive and bulky is it? And I don't think you can take a tape measure and figure that out. It's somewhat of an artistic and architectural engineering analysis.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of know it when we see it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Do you begin to see the kind of constraints or the design challenges that are evoked once you begin to think through what something should look like that speaks to as many people as possible? And then there is the question about human scale. So thank you.
I'm going to introduce yet another constraint. We're tending to overlook the fact that this building is sited in the middle of what has just been put down as a brand new development, Rose Lane. I don't live in Rose Lane, by the way, but I walk by it a lot. And the developer, I guess, deliberately chose a rather eclectic grouping of styles, and that was an interesting choice. I don't think I would have done it quite the same way, but I think the idea made some sense. But in any event, whatever is put in that several-acre parcel that's right in the middle of that larger development somehow or another has to tie in to just that part. I mean, it's all well and good to say what's the overall feel of the community of Larkspur.
Right.
But we have to think, to avoid being an iconic building, as the gentleman said, we have to think what is going to look sensible right in Rose Lane, notwithstanding that Rose Lane isn't perfect. You know, it's there. We're not going to change it. So we can do something that would enhance it rather than detract from it.
Thank you so much. And let me just give you a heads up. We're going to change the question really soon. So we'll take a couple more comments here. And there was somebody over here. Yes. We'll have this lady go first, and that'll be your turn.
I wanted to clarify something that I said and build on some of the things I'm hearing about the scale, for one thing. I agree with the woman who said mimicry, and I wanted to clarify my own statement about familiarity. I don't think that mimicry is the answer to pluck something like the Art Deco or Hispanic. Familiarity can also be communicated through scale and materials, and some of the things that Dan was talking about with indoor-outdoor space. I mean, the natural environment we have is we have vistas, we have ridges, we have trees, and so the building itself, I think, by an indoor-outdoor attractiveness, as this woman was saying, something that's attracting you in, access through windows, comfort and familiarity through materials, you know, that are more human friendly rather than cool or aggressive, as that fellow was saying. Look at me, you know, that I want to be impressive. I'm a bit aggressive, you know. So the opposite of that, something warm and inviting through materials and scale.
Okay, thank you. And then we have this gentleman, and I'll begin shifting the question. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my comments don't fit into any of the questions, but the comments from this gentleman kind of dovetail into what I wanted to say at this meeting, which is that I do live in the Rose Lane community. I'm actually on the board. There are a number of other members of the board who are here. I think we expected it would be a slightly different kind of meeting, but nevertheless, one of the things that's important to us in the sense of what will be done with that parcel is that the current plans as we saw them were to route traffic down Rose Lane and then back out Orchid. Orchid is the street that is parallel to Doherty, which is a 25-foot wide residential street with lots of children and parking. And our concern, at least my concern, although the board hasn't taken a position yet, is that whatever is put there, and I would personally prefer a more modern building than a more traditional building, simply because I think it fits with what else is on Doherty. But what's important to us is that there be some separation between the community center and actually the community in terms of where the parking is put and where the access is. And I personally would like to make sure that the access is flipped from what the architect originally designed, so that all of the cars and the noise and the pollution and don't end up right up against the residential community. I'd much prefer that those are out on the Doherty side, that the access be, if there's any on Rose Lane, that it be immediately upon turning onto Rose Lane, and that the parking be on the front, that the building be placed in the middle, and in order to preserve the bulk, in order to make the bulk look smaller, that perhaps the top floor be stepped back, as is often done, to have it appear, to have the bulk appear reduced, and then to screen it from the residential community with trees and other natural elements and put the park in the back. That would be different than the design I saw, and I'm pleased to hear that the design is open. So that's my comment.
Thank you so much. It's good to hear from you. Let's have this lady, the microphone for her, and then I'll introduce the next question.
I have a bias as a gardener, so I will say that up front.
Thank you.
But in the built environment, I like to see a lot of landscaping surrounding the buildings that is natural and provides nice habitat. And just to illustrate, I think, with a couple of examples, I think most of us know Mount Tam Orthopedics on Bon Air, and they have always had beautiful landscaping around that building that is well tended. And I also think that in the community of Corte Madera, they are a model for beautiful, colorful landscaping, again, that is well tended. And I say that because I think we've all witnessed what has happened around the Central Marin police station and the invasive plants that have grown up around the attempt to do a nice, natural, native-friendly landscaping. So, in any case, landscaping around the building, to me, is very important, as well as the structure itself.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So here we have another question that we're really looking forward to hear from as many as possible. And as you know, we are over here on the Greenbrae side, and there are many from you from this side of the creek, right? And the question is, as a Larkspur, Kentfield, Green Bay, and whoever else, because it's a complex kind of cityscape, what activities would attract you to use this facility? So there's so much that has been talked about. Yes, it's the look and feel and the design of it, but really it's also the utility that can help with that sense of connection that we so want as a larger community. Okay. So it would be great to hear from you what pops to your mind, what stands out to you. So we have the lady right here, and then and Kevin, and then others, hopefully, yeah.
Okay, now I get to say what I wanted to say when I decided to come to this meeting, and I saw the signs months ago. And what I really want is a swimming pool. That is what I really want. And
Okay.
so people are saying, yeah,
Okay.
but across the street is private. This is a private club. I want a community pool. I grew up with a community pool that brings people together on a hot summer day or with your children. I think I think it's something that's, there are many pools in the area, but they're private, and I think a community pool brings people together.
So I would just like to remind ourselves, this is a question that has been asked from a very genuine place, and I would like to listen us from a very genuine place, because we really would like to hear what comes to mind when you hear that question. So thank you, ma'am. So what activities would attract you to use this facility? Oh, Kevin, and then we go right here.
Again, as a member of the Greenbrae community,
Yes.
I'd really like us to have a really, really nice library
Uh-huh.
to replace what we have now and to make that a real attraction for those of us who live throughout the larger Greenbrae, Kentfield, Larkspur community.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was very clear. Yeah. Yes.
The library, I want to have a quality library, and I actually second what the woman was saying. I don't know what her name is about the swimming pool. Was that they have? If people think that in community ed you have that at Redwood, well, that's not true actually, because that's only for master's swimmers. So there's no community access to that pool whatsoever. The closest community pool would be like Jewish Community Center or in Sir Francis Drake High School.
Okay.
So, but my concern with that would be, can you have a library that's a community center and then have a pool? I don't know if there's enough space there, but that might be a
Right.
separate
Yeah.
issue. That's the only caveat with that.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine when you ask a question like this, and this is a community that wants to use its resources well, that these, the wants and needs come up, right? So, thank you. Right here. So we'll have this lady first, and then you. Okay, we have her. Yes.
I know it's great to have a library, but I think we can have both. I think we could have a gym. I know this is going to be crazy, but why can't we have the pool below and the gym above? I'm expecting this is going to have to get paid for by a bond that's going to go out to the whole community, and it'd be great if we could have. I don't know if everybody's aware that we lost a gym when we built the Cove School, and my husband's been coaching basketball and baseball, and we are really, there's 37 CYO teams, That's too many. We lost a gym. We need a gym for all the activities for the families and the kids, and a rec center, and besides the library.
Yeah. So this is just to make sure that we stay focused enough about the question. So this is not about what do we all need to be a better, for the community. This is what would attract us to come to the community and library center. I'm not saying not to say that, but I'm just thinking the dialogue is about, what is the best utility for you all given that building?
Meeting rooms.
Oh, sorry. Meeting rooms. Meeting rooms. Okay, right here.
I would like to see some of the space dedicated to a variety of activities, and I'm being rather general about that. But first of all, I do think that some kind of a kitchen space would be important to support various kinds of activities at the community center. But when I think of activities, these might be workshops and lectures. They could also be films. I can almost see it being, here's the schedule for the week at the community center with a variety of activities that appeal to people of varying ages, whether it's kids to seniors in the community and everybody in between. But a place where people can go and pretty much know that there will be something going on that may be of interest to them. So an activity area would be, to my view, an important aspect, as well as, of course, the library and certain other facilities.
Thank you so much.
What would get me in the door, I think, is a world-class library. I would also like to see meeting rooms and perhaps even established offices. So if there is a meeting room and then a small office off it that is for seniors, so that they could have a place to connect, and a place maybe where Park and Rec would have it so they could coordinate. So it would be a one-stop shop. But I also felt when we passed the bond measure for the upgrading of all three Tamalpais Unified High School District, the people were told that we would have access to the pool in our area. And after about a year or so, public access to the Redwood Pool was eliminated. So I take umbrage with that. I think that the issue could be resolved if we could be allowed back at Redwood, and then we wouldn't need to have a pool again, even though the taxpayers voted for it.
That's a new pool.
Yeah, it is a new pool. But to me, the library, and then having a flexible space that can be converted to gym, that can be converted to meeting rooms. I mean, there's walls that can be moved.
It's particularly important when you think about who are all the people who will be using them. We had a bunch of middle school kids show up last time and give us their point of view. And it's like, who will be using it, and who will, how will this building best serve the variety of people and locations? So right here, ma'am, yes.
Well, I want to mention what I really would like to see is technology, computers, e-books, classes on, on all kinds of technology classes. Instead of going to the Apple Store, we can go to the library.
All right. Yes. Thank you. So we have several there. So we go with the gentleman, and then the lady in with the orange scarf, and then put your hand the microphone. Okay. And then.
I love the idea of community rooms, meeting rooms, and activities. I have a question, and that is how. Those are great things as long as there's some programming around them, and I'm just curious. It's great for us to build the space, but who's responsible for programming and
right. Somebody would need to
making
be
sure there's
responsible,
activities
right?
happening?
Yeah, exactly. I think.
Does anyone have an answer to that?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Thanks for standing up. Okay.
Bravo.
Bravo. Okay. Let's not forget about what we do once we have it, right? So is this lady?
Before you move on, my staff and I will be around after the meeting. A lot of what you're talking about programming, pools, gyms, that was part of the last 4 years of conversation. And I'm not saying you missed out. I'm not trying to imply that. We have lots of answers that we'd be happy to share with you. We have lots of data. We have lots of financial issues about why there's not going to be a cafe, I'm sorry, in the library. And I can talk to you about that, and I'll stay as long as you'd like me to. So if you can help Zella get through the conversation that she's facilitating, we'll stay and have that conversation with you afterward.
Yeah, and we're
Well-
actually moving to closure here, a few more comments, and then we'll
But
be
you're
done.
asking what would get us there, and a cafe would get us there. I mean, that was what I was going to say, is a coffee shop is kind of important to me. That's what would get me there.
That's right, you asked the question.
At the very minimal, a kitchen so that the kinds of uses that I would expect this to be there would be available. I know it's an issue. I know it's been cut, but that's what would get me there.
Okay, thank you. So we have the lady right over there, and then, so this is where let me just take just a breather here. It's a couple minutes left until 11:30. I would be happy to make this a little bit longer. So we can stay longer and continue the dialogue, and those who need to leave, or I just need to know what your input is. I need to know where you're standing with this. Shall we add 10 minutes? Because we can. Yeah?
5 more minutes after the 11.
So let me just, so we can move forward. Let's go until 11:40, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So we have better closure here. Okay.
I just want to make a point because it's come up. I want to make a point because it's come up a bunch of times already. There has been a long process here, and we all understand that. Years and years of planning and lots of community meetings. But there's an entire new community with hundreds of residents at Rose Lane who have not been able to participate in that process. So forgive us if we're starting from ground zero on some of these topics. We're new to the community and quite frankly are a little surprised. We bought into the community not having full knowledge of what was going to happen in this space, and we're probably the most impacted by it of anybody. So
It's good to hear your point of view. Thank you so much.
What would get me to the library? What would get me to the library is world-class resources, peace and quiet. A library, in my opinion, is not a gymnasium. Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a couple of comments right over here. And then another comment over here. Okay. So we can really only go a comment at a time, ma'am. Yes. Yes, would you go ahead, sir?
Thank you.
Good to see you.
This is my third meeting, and a lot of the issues...
Would you hold the microphone
Yes,
very close?
sorry.
Thank you.
I attended the previous 2 meetings, this is the third, and a lot of the issues that the folks here are talking about were mainly discussed in those prior meetings too. In fact, I should tell you that in the second meeting, the leadership group of students came and discussed what their dreams would be about this construction of the library and the community center. One very interesting person said that, among the students, said that he would not want to read anything older than 90 years. So that would eliminate Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, Jane Austen, Plato. You know, that was, I guess, a comment without thinking very much. But the real crux of the question for
Let's
me...
give them, let's make sure to really hear him as he's speaking. Thank you.
So the real crux of the question for me is not whether it's going to be this or that, but what's the square footage going to be for the library? What is it going to be for the community center? I don't think a cafe and a library go together unless you have a small place where you can talk to friends in a meeting room. So I think meeting rooms are good, but I haven't seen an answer to the question of how that square footage is going to be divided. I have a library at home. When I walk into my library, it's almost like a religious experience for me. And a few of the other people have said this. You can't, the current Larkspur, everybody here knows who's been in there, is completely inadequate. The chairs are really comfortable. You can read the New York Times because it's free there. So, you know, people go there and they stay a long time because it's comfortable. But as far as the books, it's a very small thing. So I think we can't have a world-class library. That would mean a research library, like UC or Stanford or Harvard. That's not what's going to happen. But we do need a library that has a really great selection of books where people can come and see and stay there and read in a comfortable atmosphere without much noise.
Mm-hmm.
The community center, I'm not sure what feature that's going to take, but I am in favor of having meeting rooms. And so until we figure out what the square footage, the division is going to be between the library and the community center, I think it's kind of mysterious. I don't think there should be a swimming pool there.
Yeah.
I think we should try to get the Redwood swimming pool back because that's what was promised.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I want to make sure that who else had their hand up already? So we have you, ma'am, and then it was you, and then the gentleman in the back. Let's go with that. And then you, and then we have to think about wrapping up. Okay.
I just wanted to third the cafe idea and maybe have it be, rented out to a third party. But that is really what would get me there, and I know that's what would get my high school kids there, because when they do their librarying, they do it online at home usually or order the book. So.
Okay, so that there's the reality of what libraries and community centers used to be, and then how the world is sort of changing, and what are the needs of the younger generation. It's complex, clearly. So we had you, ma'am. Yes.
I just wanted to say a couple of things. One is I'd be happy to stay.
Your microphone. Just keep it close to your mouth. Thank you.
I'll be happy to stay after for a few minutes. I was on the school board for the 12 years during the bond committee passage and subsequent conversations about it. So if I can, I'd be happy to answer any questions about use of the pool at the Redwood High School, because I understand your expectations. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm not quite sure what the plans are for what follows this, but having participated now for probably what's been about 3 years in brainstorming conversations about what we'd all love to see on the site, I think, and then subsequent meetings where the reality of certain restrictions we face, narrowed that conversation down. I think that the larger community, I think, needs to be involved in a conversation about that involves, constraints of the property, impacts on neighborhoods and traffic, the cost of maintaining and operating these spaces. These are the kinds of conversations, I think, that begin to sort of bring people together around more realistic set of expectations. And so, I appreciate I'm hearing all of the same wonderful ideas that have been brought up in brainstorming sessions for the last few years, but people are operating in the dark. They don't know why these things aren't possible, so.
Thank you.
Back on the activities, the current library and City Hall, what gets me in the City Hall and the library, aside from those services they provide, is I have a 2- and a 4-year-old, and I really love taking them up and showing them old pictures of Larkspur. I mean, it's low impact, and so I would love to see some of that I might not get at home or anywhere else in the community. Again, just really low impact. In addition to kind of build upon that is, before this, the Native American Miwoks lived here. And I'm not sure, I understand there were some artifacts that were dug up in the first meeting. No one knows what happened to them. It just seems a little disingenuous, looking around the room, myself included, of European descent, a modern Maronite, to have some kind of presence there of what existed before. That doesn't exist around here. So that would get me in the community center as a low impact, visual.
I have to admit that his comment is leading us to the closing question that we wanted to ask you, because there's a reality to what you were saying in terms of the historical background. And if you just could hear from a few of you your ideas about this, what are the ways to echo the history of the area in the site design and the development of the facility? So how can we be sensitive to that? Do we need to be sensitive? And then just sort of some quick impressions would be great. And you had your hand up, ma'am, and then you haven't spoken yet, have you?
Several times.
Okay, then
That's right.
you can wait for a second. You can wait. Okay. Yes.
Just to kind of continue where Sloan was going with that, I know that the Native American community is very sensitive about this issue and about what is revealed and what is kept secret. But if it is something that can be displayed, I mean, I know there's artifacts like you don't even need a lot of space for that, and it can be incorporated into the community center in different ways of displaying this was, what was here before, and here are some artifacts, and here's a little history, and just, sort of scattered throughout the center so that people using the facility in different ways can have access to that, into that information, and that sort of understanding and appreciation of what was here before and what is here now.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Just a sense of history.
Some other reactions to this question, and then we'll close. Yes.
I love what you said, but I also wanted to say I would really like to see the landscape honored. When you're in Safeway in Corte Madera and you look out, there's a beautiful view of Mount Tam that you really don't see unless they just don't take advantage of it. It's like the Target in San Rafael where they have a beautiful view and a building with no windows. And the design that I've seen on this, I don't feel like it's really honoring Mount Tam. And I don't know how that's done, but I would like to see that more.
So there's something about honoring the natural landscape as part of the echoing also. Okay, any comments? Yes, ma'am?
Just to say also, too, I think having something about human history but also natural history in the space would be nice.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my comment has to do with fundraising. Mill Valley and Tiburon libraries are the way they are because of fundraising. The bond may not be enough. We all have to be part of fundraising, and that's why I'm here. I like to be part of fundraising.
All right. Yay. Yay. Okay. So just, I would say as a way of closing, please keep in mind that question about how do we echo the history is part of the consideration. So thank you for your input on that. And Larry will share some closing.
Do we have a timeline of when they're looking to open the library again? 3 years from now?
Okay. Can I just hold your attention for a second? I'm almost done. So I just wanted to remind you, if there's any kind of comment that you have that you want to emphasize, haven't made yet, please grab a pen and put it on the board, and then you know how to get in touch with your city staff or wherever to put your input. So I want to first of all just really share my appreciation for you and sticking with this long dialogue, hearing each other so well, and it's been really nice to serve the community of the city of Larkspur. So thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just wrap up real quick because I think Susan Schmidt here would
here we have, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Larry. Yeah, can you?
Okay. Susan Schmidt here, who was a member of the school board for many years, had a number of good questions. That's what I'm here to just briefly wrap up for you. This process, as I mentioned at the very beginning, was a means to step back a little bit and see how community character and Larkspur's small town character, as it's been expressed, is incorporated into the design elements of the current building. As Dan mentioned, we're about 50% done, but there are a lot of things where we have gotten feedback from the community that said, this doesn't quite fit with Larkspur. And, that's why we took a step back to look at more of the aesthetic and character elements that have been expressed and in large part been reinforced by these last 3 meetings as things that we've heard over and over again with things like our general plan, with our central Larkspur area specific plan, with our downtown plan, with the design of the police station. So, it's good to hear that, most of the key elements have not changed. And, we've heard a few things where people have, said things that we haven't heard before. So in terms of next steps, it's going to take us several weeks to compile all the responses we've gotten in 3 meetings, plus all the things that have come to us online via email and, written to us in letters and things like that. The council will be meeting where, staff can make that presentation to them. And, that's also the time that we're going to discuss where we want to pick up from in terms of where we left off. Where we left off the last time was having gone through several community workshops. And we also have a technical advisory committee that is working through this process. One of the things we said we'd do is, how is that committee going to look coming out of this process? Are we going to keep it the same? We're going to add more people to it? Are we going to add, are those people going to come from different parts of the community, similar to the way our other citizens advisory committees have been? So,
Can you make meeting minutes available online?
yeah, what I was going to say is that all these videos will be compiled and placed online. We're going to be getting all the information, including a compilation of all these comments from the last few meetings, also online. We have a whole history of things that have gone back, 3-4 years, and even longer if you want to even get back to 2006, where, a question came up: can we have ball fields? No, unfortunately we're not going to have a gym and ball field. One of the things that we can definitively say is, as a policy, that because of where it's located, and I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, that it would not be for active use. Okay, so hopefully a lot of the questions will be answered there. Staff, council members will be available to answer other questions, either on a one-on-one basis, or we can come out to specific neighborhoods and give them more on a group basis. But there's a lot of history to catch up with for some of the people who are newer, and I know for some of the people who have been involved the whole 3, 4, 5 years, thank you for being a part of the whole thing. It's we're moving along, and hopefully we'll get there. Funding, big issue. So, that's also a big part of the discussion as well, being that we are a...
We're going to lose people. I was hoping you'd let me make a couple of comments.
Yes.
Real quick. First, housekeeping. We'd love for you to leave your contact information for us on the sheets over here when you sign it out. Second thing is, we have links on our website on the section about this project to the March 4 council meeting, but you can also find it by going to the March 4 council meeting. The program for the building is discussed extensively at that meeting. I was also reminded, I sometimes make the mistake, as a lot of folks do, certain technical words means things to me and my staff. The word cafe means commercial kitchen to me, and I apologize. The plans call for coffee service. They don't call for a commercial kitchen. There's a catering kitchen on the site in the program. There's a big difference in our world between a commercial kitchen, which is a full restaurant operation, a cafe, and food service. And there is food service in the program. So I want to clarify that comment for those who are staying here. If you go in the program, you also see a lot of flexible spaces are talked about in there. So I'll be here as my staff. We could talk one-on-one or in groups. I want to make sure people heard that. And also, Larry, we didn't get a chance to acknowledge Giselle Chow, who's been doing all of our work up there. I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is wrap up. I thank you for coming out today. It's a great day if you were to text a picture of what's going on out here today to your East Coast friends. They won't believe it's the middle of November. So, thank you for coming. We have staff here. We also had Larry Longto, who's leaving, but he's with the Library Foundation. So a lot of people here to answer questions for you. Thank you.